Okay, I've got an idea here for a stew. The weather it's spring, it's been 3 days of rain and gray, and for some reason a nice beef stew I was thinking of. And then something came in my feed called medieval stew, which was just beef. Looked okay, it was probably good, but I'm going to take that recipe and run with it, quite a distance with it actually. So I'm starting off with about a kilogram here of beef, about 2 pounds. This is just a ground beef, ground through once. This is some big chunks of nice cut of beef. I don't remember what cut it was. I told the butcher it was for beef stew, and this is the one she picked. And these are beef short ribs. So that's going to be the meat group here. The vegetable group over here is not all true to form. In fact, this original recipe had no vegetables in it at all, just some spices. So I'm going to update it a little bit, and potatoes are a new world vegetable. So depend what period of medieval history you're talking about, they might not have even had potatoes. Certainly they had carrots, definitely asparagus, which is very traditional around here. And these beans are a bean that's been in central Italy for over like 2,000 years. It's called the fagiolini del Tresimeno, because they grow up around the one lake here in Umbria. Now, as far as the authenticity here goes, let's say, how authentic is it? I mean, there's one recipe recorded from Tales of Canterbury or something like that. That's one innkeeper's recipe based on the spices that he had coming through his area when they wrote that down, his favorite way of making it. But I'm sure there was a whole lot of variation. So it's basically a one pot thing. And I'm going to cook it in this pot with a nice thick bottom on it, because that beef's going to take a long time to cook. Now, what do we got going in here? It's going to be a little bit of nutmeg, believe it or not. Turmeric. These two were not called for in the original recipe. Neither was rosemary, but I like them. Neither was thyme, but I like it. Ginger, yes. Cloves, yes. Cinnamon, no. Paprika, yes. Fennel seed, no, but yes. I'm also going to use a couple bay leaves, and these leaves come from a bush, a plant that I've got growing wild on the property here. Well, it's actually a hedgerow, and a friend of mine said this is used very, very commonly with cingale. I don't even know the name of it, but it's going in here. And other than that, just a little bit of, what do you call this? Zafferano. It's saffron. A little bit of saffron, and a little bit of cheddar here on the beef stock here. So that is what I am going to use to make, I'm just going to call it medieval stew. Okay, I'm starting off here by browning my short ribs in a little bit of oil, and this is just sunflower oil. Okay, there we go, and that's brown. By the time that's brown, I'll have my stew beef cut into more bite-sized chunks. My butcher gave it to me like this. I'm cutting it up a little bit here. And of course the ground beef we don't have to cut up. Okay, those short ribs seem pretty happy. I wanted to give those bones just a little bit of time ahead of the other meats, and to cook at a good high temperature there. There's the rest of my meat groups. Some cut up beef here, and some ground beef, because it's going to have enough vegetables, and I want it to be good and meaty just because that's what I'm in the mood for. Something medieval. Of course, the medieval expert I've been listening to a little bit says that, if you go into an inn or a roadhouse or whatever and order food, they might or might not have any meat at all. It might be all vegetables, or it might be all meat. You just had no idea what you were going to get. You know, there's one pot of something on, and everybody, that's, whether you liked it or not, that's what you ate. Which kind of appeals to me. So I'm going to stir this around a little bit, let it brown a touch, and then put in some red wine. I've got a sort of a sweet red wine that's supposed to, I'm trying to emulate a thing called verjuice, which is, it's a grape, kind of a grape, they make, it's not wine, it's kind of a grape that they make into a juice before the grapes are even ripe. So it's not fermented either. So I got to make a substitute. So I've got some sweet red cooking wine I'm going to use for that. And let's see, as far as everything else goes here, I'd say, I don't know, there might be one or two of these spices isn't really authentic to the time period. Potatoes aren't. The beans are. Carrots would be. Asparagus would be. I'm not going to pre-brown my onions or my carrots. I'm just going to chop them up and throw them in at the right time. Because I don't think in medieval times they would have been doing a lot of sous chef work. My guess is things went in kind of crude and they just cooked for, who knows, all day. They probably put things on a certain time of day and people were served out of that pot all day long. It's my guess. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be what they'd call a little bit crude here. And it's just the way I like it. Okay, so meat's browning and bubbling along here pretty good. And I'm going to, the recipe calls for only a half cup of that verjuice. And heck with it, I'm going with 2 cups of this red wine. So, and then I'm going to top that off with water and let that cook for a couple hours. I'll turn the heat down nice, bring that back to a boil, and let that cook for a good couple hours, pull the bones out of it, and see what the broth is like and go from there. Oh, I'm going to add 2 more cups of water now. Okay, in goes the water. And that worked out pretty good. Pretty good. So bring this back up to a boil. Now the fellow did the medieval, the video that I'm taking this off, he warned against scum coming up to the top and to take that off. And I am getting a little something here. I don't think it's your classic beef scum because this is Umbrian beef. It's a whole different kettle of fish right from a local butcher, and a lot of the cows around here are fed into pasture. They don't get all the antibiotics and growth hormones and things like that. But see, that's starting to look like a nice beefy dish. We get some veggies in there and get that thickened up a little bit and some nice spices. That's going to be a pretty respectable pot of medieval stew. I love the sound of that. I hope this is good. Okay, things are back to a rip-roaring boil here. And just cooking off the alcohol in that wine. It's got that purpley wine color. And, you know, just tasting that wine before, I'm thinking I've tasted something like that before. Maybe like a, I don't know, communion wine at church or something. Mogan David or something. It's like a sweet red wine. It's the kind of wine that can make you very sick if you drink too much of it. So it's good for cooking. So just gonna let that simmer for a couple hours till we've got a sauce, and then we'll get about another hour with everything in it here. Now I made a modification. There were some potatoes sitting here. I took them away because they're a New World vegetable. As far as I know, everything here is Old World. I'm not so sure about all the spices. Some of these things, like ginger, I think that does. I don't know where all that grows. I think it was an oriental spice, but I'm not sure it is. But I like the idea of the beans more than the potatoes because they are definitely native to central Italy. And this place was pretty big during the Renaissance, during the Middle Ages. They wouldn't have even had a Renaissance without the Middle Ages. And I'm going to cut the onions and the shallots into big chunks Same thing with the parsley and everything, fairly chunky, because I just don't think they would have had the time or the finesse back in a, unless you were the Baron's cook or something like that, but in a tavern, that's what I'm thinking, just common fare type food. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. I snapped my asparagus in half, and I want to inject a little quick story here. They snap it in half just to get rid of the tough stuff easy. Back in the day, they probably would have eaten that. But asparagus, we recently, just a couple weeks ago, went for a hike up here to Cibotola. It's a medieval ruin that we were hunting asparagus. And it's very traditional around here. So it's got roots, and because of that, yeah, I think it should be included. But very close to where we were at Cibotola there, the next weekend, we came across some unusual stuff in the woods, and checked with a local. That is the legend is it's the lost town of Fallera, an Etruscan town. Fallera, Fallera. And yeah, so it's just wait a while now. It's just wait a while. Give this another, I don't know, half an hour at least. Let that wine penetrate the meat and tenderize it pretty well. It might be a little on the sweet. It might have been too much wine. I don't know, but we'll see. With all these other spices, that's just the way the innkeeper made it that night, right? Maybe some of the customers loved it, some of them didn't. Who knows? I don't think there's one right way to make this unless you go by that single recorded recipe in the Canterbury Tales, and that's tough to do. Okay, we've been simmering here for about a half an hour, so the wine should be all cooked out. Let's see how it's tasting. That's workable. Interesting. Okay, so that's it. Just the beef, water, the wine. That's all the seasoning that's in that so far. And little beefy, little, like a reduced wine. And time to start adding the spices. I think everything's going to just start going in here all at the same time, at random times. Not really trying to optimize as if it was some modern cooking process. I'm just going to dump it in and, yeah, take my chances. See what it's like. Okay, so it's been in there simmering for about an hour. I'm going to leave the bones on the short ribs, but it's time to add the spices. So I have eyeballed this. The original recipe called for, various amounts. I went with about a teaspoon of everything, which is probably stupid, but it is what it is. Saffron, this little red powder here. I could not find ground cloves this morning, so I put in whole cloves. Cloves there. We've got the fennel seed. We've got the cinnamon. We've got paprika, sweet paprika. We've got ginger, thyme, rosemary, turmeric, and nutmeg. And you might say nutmeg, cinnamon. This doesn't sound right, but it does wonders for a dish called Cincinnati chili. I'm of the feeling that unless it's absolutely horrible, if they had the spice, they'd put it in there just to make it more interesting tasting. So yeah, that's going to go in right now. And then we'll start putting in our onions to cook with this. So that's it. And we'll just let that cook for a good long time and get happy with the beef. And I want to get the onions and the garlic in here just to get those flavors mixing, and the parsley. And then I think we can wait on the beans and the asparagus and the carrots. Well, the beans will go in next, because they're going to need a good hour to cook, get soft. And then then we'll put in the carrots. They won't take that long, half an hour or something. And then in goes the asparagus towards the end. Okay, let's just let that cook a while. Okay, we're still bubbling it nicely there. Took me, 2 minutes to cut this onion up. You can see this is a lot bigger pieces than I normally use for the onions. And the same thing here with my shallots and garlic. So I've got the onion group well represented there. Now I think I'm also going to throw in these mystery leaves, which, I don't know if you remember, I said earlier, in case it gets edited, these are growing in a hedge, a bush in my house. I've got a ton of these leaves. And a friend of mine, who I do trust, said this is one of the essential seasonings for chengali. And that's why I went a little heavy on the red wine here, because they marinate the chengali a long time, these old recipes. So I'm in with the bay leaves, in with these leaves. They'll get pulled out at the end. And what else can I throw in here this time? I can probably, I'm going to wait. I'm going to give it an hour before I put in the beans. All I've got to really get in here. I might as well get the parsley, and I'm just going to chop up the sage right along with the parsley, stems and all. And in it goes. And this is a beef bouillon package, which they would not have had in medieval times, but yeah, I'm debating whether or not I'm going to put that in there. We'll see. Okay, in goes the parsley. I'll go in there. Only one or two jumped off. And I'm not sure exactly if putting the parsley in right now is the right exact optimum time, but I do want to give it a chance to get whatever taste it's going to impart spread throughout the broth. Because I kind of look at that as, I don't know, it's a green vegetable, sure, but it's more of a spice. So now I've got all my major brothy flavors in there. And now this is going to get a good hour to just keep simmering, and then I'll taste it and see how it's doing. Color's starting to improve a little bit. Sort of reddish color of the wine, not real appetizing to me. This is more of a beefy broth color. Oh, it's interesting. Huh, that's very interesting. Okay, so it's starting to get a little taste. But really, I haven't even come up to that second boil yet after adding my spices and turning down the heat. So I'm just going to put the lid on and let that cook a while, give things a chance to make some diffusion happen. Do a little bit more heat there. Just a little. There we go. Okay. This is... if you like being surprised, which I kind of do, if it's not a bad surprise, then yeah. This is surprising. Look at this. Look at this. This looks medieval. Positively medieval. And the smell, the aroma is heady. Heady. It's just a wild combination. So you saw the spices that went into this. And some of these things right off the tree, right off the bush, fresh. And some of them, could have been fresher. They came from bottles, but, they are what they are. And I'm kind of curious how this tastes. Now look at this. I picked up a whole clove on that one, which, I'm sure in your medieval food you'd have to pick out some things. Like this is a stalk of parsley. I normally don't even put the stalks in. I'll just use the leaves. But, in the spirit of medieval, it's not bad. It's interesting, and I don't mean that in a in a bad way. I mean it's got a flavor, and it's not bad. And I'm just gonna let it continue to cook because since I put the onions in, you can see how far the onions are done. This is gonna have big pieces of onions in it, Big pieces of carrots, lots of meat. These leaves will come out. This is the mystery chingali seasoning here. I just am fortunate enough to have a whole row of it in my yard here. And that's a bay leaf. Well, the bay leaf wasn't called for in the original recipe, but I said, what the heck. And all these little green shriveled up things here are bits of parsley and sage. So they're doing their thing. And I'm just going to let this boil. It's boiled onions, which is a good remedy for colds and things. Onion tea they make. So normally the onions, you cook them at a higher temperature. These are just going to boil in here right from the get-go. And eventually I'll put in a couple more things here. Some carrots, which I've got cut big. I'll give them enough time, allowing for how big they're cut, to get soft a little bit and to mix in there. And then the parsley. I'm just going to take this parsley and just cut it in half. It's going to go at the end. And I think the carrots and the beans are going to go in more or less at the same time and give them a good hour until the beans start to get soft. Then in goes the asparagus. I'll just chop that in half so it's not too fine, not too thick. And there we go. Now, as for this stuff, this Knorr beef bouillon seasoning, I don't know. I like this taste. It's interesting, but it still has a way to go, I think, to fully reveal itself. So I'm just going to get that all down in there and let that simmer nice and low. And maybe in another hour or two, we'll have medieval stew. Okay, I wasn't watching the time, but the baker's not open right now. It's afternoon close down thing. And this is but when I walked back in the door, it did smell very good. Let's turn the heat down a little bit more because I added half a cup of water, 1 cup of water to it. So in total here, this broth, the only liquid in here, is comprised of 3 cups of water, 2 cups of wine, sweet red wine. There's spices. Now it's had some time to start to cook. And as you can imagine, it's pretty complicated. It's a good broth. It's very good. I wish the bakery had been open because I really would like to get some rustic bread to eat with this. But I think I'm going to... I'm just too lazy to make it myself today, but I should just make it or go up again later in the day. I'll go up later and get it. This needs plenty of time anyway. But it's underneath it, of course, you can taste the fats from the beef tastes. Wow. I can't pull that all apart, but it's good. It would take one heck of a pallet to pull all that apart. You saw what went in there. Okay. This has been on for about 2 hours in total now, and has had a chance to kind of develop its taste and to move things around in there a little bit. But we're vectoring in on what's going to end up like. So we've got to get in these carrots and the fagiolina del lago, the beans of the lake, the little beans of the lake. That's what that means. Now this is about, I think it's about 250 milliliters, or grams. Yeah, 250 grams. And just eyeballing this package, you can get these all white, sorted, right? Well, they're not perfectly sorted, but this is the more natural way, I guess. Back in the day, I think this is the way they would have been. So I'm thinking we got about maybe 150 grams here of beans. Just eyeballing that. So in they go. In they go. And in go the carrots. And let's just see how this dumps in here. Okay, cross your fingers. Everybody falls straight into the pot. Go. Okay, very good. Good little paratroopers. So the only thing we've got to add to the soup at this point, well, now we're going to just let the beans, bring this back to a boil, let it cook until the beans are done, soft and nice. And that's why I put in the carrots at this time, because I want the carrots to impart some of their tastes into the beans. And look, this is so rustic. Look at the big pieces of onion in there and the beef. And there's a lot of, I used a hamburger here for a reason, so it wasn't all big chunks of beef. Had a little bit of, variety. So when you grab a scoop of it, you're going to get lots of meat. You might not get these big chunks. There's only 5 of these big short rib chunks. So, if a duke comes through, our little tavern here out in the middle of medieval Europe, we'll give it the duke one of these pieces here. Yeah, everybody else gets these little ones. Some lesser nobles might get some of these bitey bits here, but your average Joe that comes through, he's going to get the hamburger. And the funny thing is, the nutritional value is consistent through the whole thing. Most of it's been absorbed into the juices here. The flavors and for instance, these bones. I kind of wish I had broiled these bones, but I was just too lazy, and I don't think they would have done that back in the day. That's a more modern thing for extracting the flavors from what's the center of the bone called? The pulp in the middle of the bone. Brain fart. Broiling that out that's something I remember from The Joy of Cooking cookbooks. But it's enough stirring around here and talking. I'm just enjoying looking at it. It just looks so, damn, that's not like a food you see. This is something off a plate from hundreds of years ago. It's a 500-year-old dish at least. Medieval. Okay, more time over the fire. Okay, I think I'm going down the right path here. A friend just stopped over, Massimiliano. He's the son of a friend, actually. And he came in the door. He said, "Oh, you're cooking. It smells good." Scusi. Provato. I tried just a little bit. A spoonful. It's interesting. He said the salt is perfect. Can I try it? He was curious about it. Are the beans really cooked yet? Hold on here. Let's try some of these beans. Little fagiolini da lago. Little beans of the lake. Not totally as soft as I think they could be yet. So let's let that cook a little bit more. I'm going to put a little bit more water in it. But my God, does that have a stewy look. This is serious. Yeah, I think I've got something going here. If I was at a Renaissance fair and I was serving this up, I'd be so happy. Yep. Okay, so what are we going to do for now? We're going to let this cook a little bit more. I'm actually going to put a little bit more water in it. A little bit water, I think, just to give it more time for those beans to soften up and absorb the flavors. Now, Massimiliano asked me about these leaves. I said, they're from here. And I took them outside and I showed him this row of hedges that had these leaves growing on it. Yeah, he knew bay leaves, but he didn't know these. And I told him that these are used for the cingale. And that was something he was unfamiliar with. So, not everybody knows everything. But, there are many, many good things. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, a little bit more water, let it boil, and we go from there. Okay, so this is the 4th cup of water with 2 cups of wine. And that's it. So it's going to come back to a boil. Cook for a while until the beans get happy little nice beans, and they start to suck up some of the flavors. But yeah, there's something about the look of this stew. Oh, there's a bone coming out. That's good. That's very good. There's another bone coming out here. It's going to be popping right out of there very soon. These short ribs. I mean, short ribs are magic. So it's a little bit of a cheat to incorporate them, although I didn't cook them such that their total potential came out. But yeah, that doesn't look like a medieval stew. What does? Okay, this has been cooking for about 4 hours now in different stages. So it does require some attention. But if the beans are done, I think it's going to be done because it smells so good. Okay. I don't think those beans are going to get much more done than this. I might give it a little bit more time though. These, okay. Put the beef, spices, pull these leaves out of here. I think they're probably done contributing by now. But this little green thing right here, a little piece of parsley here that's cooked beyond recognition. It's very soft and, sticking to the beef. But let's try. Oh, here we go. That's a nice little bite. Piece of meat, a couple of beans. That's different, not in a bad way. Okay. I'm going to stick with this. This is medieval stew. It's medieval stew. A kilogram of beef, beans, carrots, lots of spices, a couple of very interesting spices like this leaf, which have to be pulled back out of here. Lots of onions. Okay, let's have dinner. Okay, here's where these tweezers come in again. To pull these things like this out. And it's a little piece there, bay leaf. Let's give it up its taste. Well, that has a look. You just don't see stews like this. The bay leaf, some of the leaves from the backyard there. Let's try to stir this up. Big pieces of carrot and onion and lots of little beans in there. An old bean that came up from Egypt to the Trasimeno, Lake Trasimeno area. This is probably during Etruscan times. And so some of these things predated medieval days, which means they were probably available in medieval days. Oh, I love the looks of this. This looks like a stew. Oh, I forgot something here. The asparagus. So, let's get that in there. And this, we will not give a lot of time in here. Just, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. to cook a little bit. I want the asparagus to be kind of almost raw. That's a personal preference issue. Does make it look nice though. You know, the orange, the green, and whatever color the meat is, like brownish color. Yeah. Medieval stew. And, okay, I should probably be serving this up in some kind of a copper bowl or something. Who knows? But here it is. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so let's turn the heat off on this guy. And think about our dinner here. Oh, some pepper. That's screaming for pepper to me. Okay, so here we have it. It looks like a stew, and I don't even know how to describe this. It's not like nothing I've ever made before. So here we have asparagus, beans, the beef, you know, the carrot flavors, all those spices. The onions, the garlic, shallots. Those desserty spices, the nutmeg and cinnamon, seem to disappear into the background here. I'm trying to pick them out, but I can't. Wow. I don't even know what this tastes like. There's nothing predominant in it. But it's a healthy thing. It's meat, it's protein, it's beans, it's got a lot of veggies, you know, everything the spices bring to it. Turmeric, that's a good thing for anti-inflammatory reasons. You know, if it was 500 years ago or so, and I was having something like this, I'd feel pretty damn lucky. Simple like that. It's a good food. It's good quality food. And it's interesting. Tastes, you know, tastes good. Let's go with some of the basic juice in the beans. Just the basics here. After a simple bite like that, you can tell if it's good or not. Yeah, it's good. Okay, this is it. Medieval stew. There's 1,000 ways to make it, like every innkeeper, times every day of the year, times, you know, what's available when and who's passing through. But yeah, and I don't think there's anything in here that wasn't available in medieval times. Yeah, I was going to put potatoes in here, which would have probably been good, but you know, that's a New World vegetable. So Bon appetit. Bon appetit. Oh, I forgot to connect the microphone. Let's plug that in and see if this works. With and without test coming up here, isn't it? So we're at 12 seconds, 13. There's the external microphone. Let's see if things change here at about 16, 17 seconds. Okay. This is what I made for dinner tonight. I'm calling it medieval stew. As I've mentioned several times before, or will mention several times hence, depending on when I insert this particular clip. This is interesting, and it's good, and it's pretty healthy, depending on what kind of quality beef you can get. It's quite different. And I made this kind of thinking, what can you do in medieval times? 500 years ago. 500, 600, 700 years ago. This beef, beans, a lot of spices, which were, I believe, all available then. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll call them out here in a minute. But, asparagus, carrots, no potatoes because that was a New World vegetable. But, it's good. It's good. It's not, this is a difficult thing to describe. I don't feel bad about eating this. I like it. Some very good flavors going on there. Things that we're not used to in the modern era. And, I saw a video here on YouTube which made me think, what did things really taste like in previous times? Because it made me think, we should consider how good we've got it. Obviously, we're not going to preserve something that's terrible. Yeah, we're gonna try to keep going with things that are good. So here's a bit of asparagus, carrot, beans, meat, and the juice. I guarantee this is not a thing that's bad for you. Not a thing that's bad for you. Now this bone here, I should have picked this out earlier. Part of the beef here was short ribs, and part of it was just a nice cut of ground beef. I don't know what the cut was exactly, but it looked pretty good. And I've kind of tried to boil the marrow out of these because that's very flavorful. And there's a lot of onion in this, ground crops that, were available in Europe at the time. Potatoes weren't, tomatoes weren't. But beans? Oh, I hope beans were. I'm not sure beans are authentic. Yeah, no, they were. I know it for a fact. They came from Egypt. These beans, they're fagioli del lago, fagiolini del lago, little beans from the lake. They were brought up here after encounters between the Romans and the Egyptians about 2,000 years ago. So these are very authentic through medieval times. But otherwise, everything in here is, except for maybe some of the spices. I think all of the spices, but I'm not positive. So please feel free to correct me on the lineage of some of these things. And my guess is Italy here was clearinghouse for spices. The Asian trade routes and so forth. They probably could have gotten anything they wanted. But here, look at this bite. Beef, a couple of vegetables, nice spices. This is healthy, good food. Tasty. And probably some inn owner somewhere on a particular day made it very similar to this. But the facts will never be known. There's very few recorded recipes, and certainly people had to improvise like crazy based on what was available at the time, what they thought would be good. You smell it, you throw a little bit in, you cook it, you taste it. That's the essence of cooking, really. So, anyway, bon appetit.